As we mentioned, anger, frustration is growing after Israel's military says it conducted multiple military operations in Jabalia, that's inside Gaza. The IDF says both of its strikes there killed Hamas terrorists, but there were civilian casualties as well. A spokesperson for the White House National Security Council said, quote, "We mourn every innocent life taken in this conflict," and added that the U.S. continues to urge Israel to minimize any harm to civilians. And joining us now is a spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. Colonel Conricus, I appreciate you making time to speak to us. I want to ask you first about the situation in Jabalia there. The IDF tells NBC News today that earlier Israeli fighter jets on this day struck a Hamas command and control complex in Jabalia, telling us we can confirm that Hamas terrorists were eliminated in the strike. How do you make that assertion? Can Israel provide proof that Hamas terrorists were, as the IDF says, eliminated?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having me. We will issue, I think, both names and numbers, and hopefully we'll have pictures in the future as well. It's important to understand that this is a live combat zone. Jabalia is a Hamas stronghold. If you remember the days of the war in Iraq, think about Ramadi, think about Anbar province, think about really hotbeds of terrorist activity where terrorists have had a long time to embed themselves within the area and under the civilians. That is Jabalia. Okay, that's the best equivalent that I could give as an example. Our troops are both on the ground, and of course we continue to operate from the air as well. The aim is very clear and very simple: to get the civilians out and to strike Hamas, its commanders, and its military infrastructure. And I want to emphasize, we have been calling on civilians in that specific area to evacuate for 2 weeks. Nobody can claim that they didn't know this was coming. So nobody can claim innocence.
Understood. So, Colonel Conricus, let me ask you about that specifically. I understand we saw the leaflets in northern Gaza while saying that Palestinians should flee south. Many of them did. They say they were struck, that there's no safe place. But I want to ask you, because the death toll does keep rising throughout Gaza, including Palestinian civilians in Jabalia. I understand that Israel and the U.S.'s argument is that Hamas is using Palestinians as human shields. But where does Israel draw the line? How many civilian casualties is Israel comfortable with to justify the targeting of Hamas terrorists?
So we will always try to apply proportionality and think about necessity, right? What is necessary to strike, what can be achieved by doing a certain action, and then what is the price that is paid by non-combatants, okay?
So to be clear, what is that? What is that perspective then, just so I understand when you say proportionality?
Yes, obviously there is no cookie cutter formula. X equals 2Y. There isn't such a thing, and no military ever says such a thing because it doesn't exist. Everything is on a case-to-case basis where we make an assessment of what the target, what the value of the military activity is, and then we try to balance that with what we assess the collateral damage or the adverse effects on civilians will be. In order to create a better situation, in order not to have civilians influenced, we have called ahead, we have told them to evacuate, and it's been 2 weeks. So I think any claims towards Israel regarding striking non-combatants should first and foremost start with the fact that we have asked them not to be there.
But Colonel Conricus, you know full well the way that the Arab world sees this, and even part of the Western world sees it as well. There has been tougher language from some, even at the White House, that I cover on a day-to-day basis. And while they stand with Israel's right to defend itself right now, they are concerned about the growing number of civilian casualties there. So recognizing the need to root out Hamas militants, I think the question remains open about where that line is. Does Israel see anything that has occurred in the course of the last 24 hours and have some concern that too many civilians have died there? Do you concede that dozens, if not hundreds, of Palestinian civilians have died there?
No, I do not. And I would urge anybody reporting on the matter to be very careful and professional, not to rely on data disseminated by Hamas. They have been caught lying twice in this war already.
But understand,
to this point, casualties.
Understood. I apologize for interrupting
so let me
you.
just finish that,
please.
Let me just finish that. So it has to be clear. We aren't fighting against the civilians. We have made that clear from the beginning. Hamas is using them as human shields. They have embedded their military infrastructure underneath where the civilians are. And in order for us to be able to perform our mission, which is to rid Gaza of Hamas. And to ensure the safety of our communities, we have to get that where the combatants are. There's no magic way of getting to the enemy, which is hiding underground, without going through what is above ground. If anybody in the world has an enlightened way of doing that, please do tell. We would be grateful to do this in a swifter and better way. It doesn't exist because that is how Hamas has populated the area, and that is how Hamas is using them as human shields.
Understood.
We will try. Yeah, we won't target civilians. We never do, and they should be out of that area, out of a concern of their own safety.
But I guess I understand that you don't target civilians, but even if you're targeting Hamas leaders, Hamas fighters, Hamas terrorists, if you know that civilians are there and they were giving weeks warning, if they're still there, I think that's part of the dilemma that the world is watching right now. Let me ask you about a small number of Palestinians and foreign nationals who we learned today were able finally to leave Gaza. Thousands of others, of course, remain stuck. Where are they safe to go within Gaza without fear of Israeli strikes?
Gaza is a war zone. It's a war zone because Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. Let's keep that in mind in each and every reporting of the object. Because
understood, and that assault was awful and beyond compare. Where should they go, though, for those civilians? Where do the innocent civilians go?
Indeed, in order to care for those people, which, as you say, are not related to fighting, there is a humanitarian zone northwest of Khan Yunis, which is in southern Gaza. It's called El Muassi, which is along the coast. That is a humanitarian zone that we have established, an area which is the safest place to be in Gaza. Wherever Hamas is, wherever their commanders are, whatever infrastructure they're using, we will strike those locations because those are the combat capabilities of the enemy. We have said that there's a humanitarian zone, and we hope that that won't be contaminated by Hamas as well.
So can you guarantee that there will be no strikes in that humanitarian zone?
What I can guarantee is that we only target Hamas, and if Hamas won't contaminate that area too, then, of course, we will not strike it. That is the purpose of having a humanitarian zone.
Understood.
That is why we established it, out of a concern for the safety of civilians.
Colonel Conricus, let me ask you, if I can very quickly, about some video on social media that shows Palestinians being beaten by IDF soldiers in the West Bank. We're choosing not to show it right now because it's graphic, but appears to show what looks like soldiers in uniform dragging at least one person whose legs are tied, his face is covered. The IDF itself has called that footage deplorable, that it does not comply with the Army's order. What can you tell us about the latest on that investigation, and if there are any other investigations now opened by the IDF into its own forces?
As you said, deplorable and not according to our values, investigated. The people responsible will be held accountable, as they are always, and there will be corrections made. We have issued clarification statements. Commanders have said it in their own voice to soldiers. Behave according to the law of armed conflict. Behave as soldiers, professional soldiers should behave. Be professional, stern, yet be humane. And that does not represent nor our values nor our other troops. It is a freak incident which is being investigated, and steps will be taken against those responsible for it.
Are there any other investigations? Last question. Any other investigations open right now, or is that it?
No, we have other investigations looking into reports of unprofessional conduct by troops. There is zero tolerance for it. We understand very well that this is exactly what Israel haters, anti-Semites, and Hamas supporters around the world will be looking for in order to amplify. We have no tolerance for it, and it will not continue.
Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus with the Israeli Defense Forces. We appreciate you making time to speak with us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.